It's ironic that the title is asking whether or not this is illegal, when the reality is that in California and other such progressive places, if you don't do it, then you can get sued. And there have been cases where women at the company did sue over the fact that they felt as if they're being discriminated. Now, the importance here is the definition of the word discrimination. You see, in sane, rational places, discrimination would mean that the hiring process is tainted. Like, the person doing the interview doesn't even consider women. Like, he just throws away the resumes the moment he sees a feminine name, doesn't even look at the qualification, doesn't even ask the person to come for the interview. Like, that is how discrimination would work in normal places. In abnormal places, the way it works is that they just look at the percentages. So they don't care if the people in that area or that demographic are even interested in getting a job in the field. They will automatically assume that it's racismus or sexismus. So for instance, they would look at the Ukrainian military, they would see that it's overwhelmingly men, and they would consider that it's because of the patriarchal systems of oppression that women don't get to serve. Even though, like, they don't even entertain the idea that, well, maybe they're just not interested in going into the front lines. No, that doesn't exist, right? It's just the system of patriarchal oppression, and because of that, the military must be systemically sexist. So in order for companies to get away from that, they will say, well, yeah, no, actually, we are going to go out of our way and reserve certain positions only for certain demographics so that we don't get accused of this.
Oh, well, here we go. Discover, develop at Ubisoft. This exciting program provides mentorship opportunities for women and non-binary individuals for the early stages of their gaming industry journey, offering tracks for game design and programming. It's very shocking to me that companies can do this because, I mean, I don't see how doing this isn't discrimination.
It is, though, because, like, usually they have the sausage, so basically the type of people that they're hiring, and they will list a number of people and demographics and ethnicities, but what they're really saying is that if you're a straight cisgender white man, we're not hiring you. So if they were to say that, then that would be illegal. But if you go the other way around and you say, well, we're only hiring everything except that, then that's fine because that's progressive. Now, the reason they do this is because they are infested with identity politics. And identity politics is pretty much the Communist Manifesto, but instead of the bourgeoisie, you write the cisgender white man, and instead of the proletariat, it's the minorities. So when you frame it like that, it all makes sense. And the reason for this is that the actual Communist Manifesto is bad against the rich. And a lot of people that are pushing for this ideology and a lot of people that are benefiting from this ideology are filthy rich. Like, if you guys remember the interview with Oprah and Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, like, all of those people there are wealthier than even smaller nations. But because you use woke identity politics, now they're victims. So it's probably the only ideology in the world where you're asked to be compassionate and care about rich people more than you care about people that are actually needy. The difference is that rich people have bags of money to help themselves with. Like, they can actually hire an army of trained psychologists and people that will listen to all their problems, and they can take a vacation in the Bahamas and relax themselves. Meanwhile, people that are actually poor cannot afford to do that, which is why I believe they deserve my compassion more, simply because I do not have unlimited compassion. Like, as a human being, I can only care so much, so I would rather invest my compassion into the people that can't help themselves and are genuinely needy. But meanwhile, this ideology, as you can see, right, the whole idea is that if you're part of one of these minorities, you're oppressed by default. And there's nothing you can do in order to get out of your oppression. Meanwhile, if you're part of the oppressor class, which is the cisgender white man, there is nothing you can do to stop oppressing people or to move away from your privilege. And again, it causes situations where people that are poor and people that are needy are considered to be privileged, while people that are incredibly wealthy, influential, they're considered to be victims, and they are considered to be worthy of the privileges that Ubisoft is offering here. So basically, like, what is wrong with the system? How can you fix it? Well, we already have a system in Romania that addresses this issue. You do not offer free gifts to people based on how they're born. You offer free gifts to people based on how wealthy they are. So, for instance, at the universities that I went to, there were public universities, and in Romania, we do have this thing called free education. Like, there are a number of seats reserved at university for people that are impoverished. Now, in order to benefit from these seats, it doesn't really matter about your ethnicity. It doesn't really matter about your race or sex. What matters is, like, how much are your parents earning? So if you can prove that your parents aren't earning anything, then you qualify for those seats. And you also qualify based on your studies in school. So it's not enough to just be poor. You also need to show that you're a hard-working student, that you don't hang around the wrong crowds, that you're actually doing your best in order to improve your life, and you're taking good grades, and you're a straight student, but it's just that you're facing these difficulties where, you know, due to reasons outside of yourself, you cannot get into a university. You do not have the money. And I have seen students that definitely deserve to be there. Like, for instance, their parents died in a car crash, so now they weren't making any money. Like, nothing was coming in. So the university went like, okay, well, this is a person that should be here because they're a really good student. They're a straight A. Like, they can definitely become a good doctor. They're just having financial issues. So they allow that person to be in the university. And again, the condition is that you need to maintain your grades over a certain level. And those people are some of the most hardworking students that you can see. Meanwhile, it's the sons of doctors and rich people that aren't studying as hard, that are going partying and that are taking it easy before the exams. And the reason for this is that they know they have a safety net. Like, if something bad happens and they fail the year, that's okay. Their parents are going to pay for it. They're going to keep maintaining that lifestyle. Meanwhile, if you're one of those students that is coming from an impoverished background, they're going to be like, well, this is my only chance. If I don't keep the grades up, I can actually drop. So, like, they can do 4 years of med school, and they can drop in the 5th year just because they couldn't keep their grades up and their life is over. Like, they now have to look towards other opportunities. They have to, you know, sign up for construction work or do anything else that's not as well paying as being a doctor. Like, they lost their chance to turn their life around. So this, in my opinion, is a better system. It doesn't discriminate on race, gender, or anything. It actually helps people that are impoverished. It actually helps the needy. And on top of that, it also incentivizes people to do good work. Meanwhile, if you look at the system, right? So basically, they're only giving mentorship opportunities for women and non-binary individuals. Like, let's assume you're running a competition for the best runner. And you need the best runner to perform, right? The best runner in the world is Usain Bolt. Like, he is born that way. There's nothing he can do about changing his gender, about changing his race. But he is the best runner. Now, if you're going to discriminate like this and you're going to say, well, we're going to hire everyone besides people from Usain's Bolt town or demographic, then you are going to still get a good runner, but you're not going to get the best. You're not going to get the top talent. What you are going to get instead is the average. And if you keep doing this all across the company and all across the board, you're always going to make sure that you are hiring the average because you're discriminating against people that may actually get through the hiring process. In fact, I would even argue that if you were to get the people you want through the hiring process anyway, then there wouldn't be need for this shit. Like, the company is obviously not racist. They're obviously not discriminatory if they're pushing for this, right? However, the reason they are pushing for this is because the normal hiring process isn't giving them the results. So in order to get the result, they have to discriminate for the people that do have the qualities and they would get in other way. But now they're telling them, no, you can't get in because we reserve these seats for our other initiatives and our ideological bias. And you can see how this is going. In fact, it's very similar to how it went under the Soviet Union when they also didn't hire for merit. They used to hire based on nepotism. So they would hire the boss's son, the boss's relatives, the boss's friends. And the people that got in there were some of the most annoying cheeky little shits you can imagine. Because, number one, they were frustrated and they understood that their position is in jeopardy. Like, if you get into a factory and you don't know anything about engineering, you are going to look at other actual engineers with suspicion because you realize that if push comes to shove, you are replaceable and they are not. I mean, that person worked at the company for 20 years, is managing to keep everything operational. In fact, if that person was to quit tomorrow, you wouldn't know how to do their job, and you would be struggling. So most of these people realize that they're there in a position that they shouldn't be. They're looking with jealousy and envy at the people that are actually competent. And on top of that, they know that if they do anything, no one is going to touch them because they were hired there by being the boss's son. They were hired there by being friends with the boss. So if it comes to having an argument between an actual engineer and them, usually the boss will side with them because they have the backing, right? And I have seen stories from American companies where it's literally this. Like, you have a comic book industry where you get a diversity hire that's in there. They're being a cheeky little shit. They're very arrogant. They're very cocky. They think that they're better than anyone because they understand the gender ideology and everyone else is just stupid and bigoted. And they pick a fight with the artist that has worked at the company for more than 10 years that, you know, is a little bit arrogant because he can actually draw and he can back himself up and he believes that the company is going to care about him because he's got higher skill. But they get into an argument and eventually the actual artist gets into trouble and he quits or he gets fired. And not only do you hire someone that's mediocre and you look at the objectively way they draw, it is definitely not as good as the head artist used to draw, but on top of that, you're also scaring your talent. Because talented and creative people do not like hanging around other individuals that they consider aren't up to par and they're forcing them to work more or they're forcing them to have their jobs more difficult. So this is like what's happening, and you can see that the Ubisoft stocks are going down and they do not want to address this at all. Like, this is the interesting thing, you know, like there can be many reasons why recent Ubisoft games are failing. Plenty of reasons, I agree with that, but they do not want to address this at all. They will say that not even bringing it up for a discussion, even just like trying to address it is grifting. Like, there is no way in hell that this has any negative effect on the company whatsoever. Like, no. And you see the press talking about it, and they're like, nope, this is actually fine. No, nothing to see here. You see other people from the inside of the industry talking about it, and they're like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. No, like, this does nothing to affect the product. No. The very fact that they're not willing to even entertain the conversation should be questionable in itself. Let me know what you guys think, though, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.